Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm here with ALX 202, What's New with Amazon Alexa. Now, before I get into the content, I have to talk about who I am. My name is Jeff Blankenberg. I'm the Chief Technical Evangelist for Amazon Alexa. Now, one of the questions that I get quite frequently about this is, what in the world is an evangelist, and what exactly do you do? So I thought I'd quickly just give you kind of a picture of what the role of an evangelist is here at this team, so that you understand kind of what my perspective is on all of this work. The first part of my job is I spend a ton of time listening, really focused in on talking to developers, hardware makers, about what's going on in their worlds, what are the needs they have as they're building things for Alexa. So that's the first part, spending a lot of time listening. One of the ways that I do this is through our Slack community. We have an Alexa community Slack that you can get to by going to alexa.design/Slack, and you can join in there. We have over 1,000, I think it's over 1,700 people at this point, that are there talking about all of the different nuances of building for Alexa and the technology, what they like, what they don't like. And we even have folks from our product teams joining them to hear their feedback and try to incorporate that into future versions of our product. So if you're interested in making sure you're heard, I highly recommend Slack. The second piece that I want to talk about is building. I am someone that needs to spend a lot of my time writing software, building things, experimenting, taking apart new features, and I do that quite often. This is an example of a skill that I've been working on, but I spend lots and lots of time writing code because I need to understand how every bit of this stack works so that I am best equipped to understand and have the conversations with all the folks that I'm listening to. The last piece, and that's what I'm doing today, is teaching. I spend a good deal of my time in front of a camera. Here's a shot from my studio. And I spend lots and lots of time online streaming out to YouTube and Facebook and Twitch and everywhere else talking about software development and Alexa. So if you haven't found me already, go look around. You can find me all over the place, either as Alexa developers or as Jeff Blankenberg. Okay, with that, let's get into our agenda for today. There's a few things that I really want to talk about, and this talk specifically is always very exciting for me because this is my one opportunity a year to really talk about numbers. We're going to dive into a bunch of the numbers about developers and devices and skills and all sorts of stuff, so we'll start there. Then I want to make sure we talk about some of the new devices and form factors that are available for Alexa this year, things we've released over the past 12 months. Then we're going to talk about new capabilities. These are things that you as an Alexa user can take advantage of. We want to make sure that you know a lot of these features because as technologists, as developers, as device makers, we need to know what users can do so that we can best equip our skills and technology to be able to accommodate those things too. And then finally, we'll end with developer tools. And that's where we'll spend all of our time talking about all the new ways that you have to build cool new experiences to engage your customers with Alexa. So with that, let's get right into the numbers. I love this part because we really do spend a lot of time thinking about, well, what kind of impact does that have, or how many people are we really talking about? So let's get into it. As of today, there are hundreds of millions of Alexa-enabled devices out there. Hundreds of millions. That every one of those devices is a possible endpoint for a customer of yours. The number of customers engaging with skills is growing 40% year over year. Now this is skills specifically, which means all of the skills that we have built as developers, these are the things that I'm talking about. So for example, if maybe you had built a skill very early on, 2016, 2017, and maybe it didn't see the traffic you were hoping for, this is something that is continuing to grow, and we see that 40% year over year is a huge amount of growth. That means people are starting to really dive into what this entire library is offering. It's exciting because it means they're going to use our software. And that's the whole point of building this stuff, right? To be able to build and provide amazing, engaging experiences for our customers. In fact, there are 3 different categories that are growing the fastest. The first is music skills. That might be not so surprising, but if you think about music as a category, it's not just the big players in the music industry. It's also lots of independent artists that are building their own experiences to connect directly with their fans. On top of that, we have audio experiences. These are separate from music. These are things like sleep sounds and sound effects and soundboards. There's lots of different ways to engage with audio, and these audio skills are really growing in popularity because it's a way for people to hear the things they want or interact with the sounds that they like, or even just have a sound that makes them fall asleep easier. The last one is gaming. Gaming is obviously a huge category in this because there's so many different ways to play a game interactively with your voice, whether you're navigating through a new fantasy world or playing in a casino or just playing some trivia. All of these kinds of games are growing in popularity as we look across the swath of Alexa skills that are available. Customers engage with skills, and again, skills specifically, billions of times a year. That's billions with an S. That's a really exciting number to think about all of the different ways that people are engaging with our skills. So let's think about developers. Let's think about what's going on for all of us. As of today, there are over 900,000 registered Alexa developers. 900,000. We'll surely hit 1 million soon. On top of that, there's over 130,000 published Alexa skills. Now that might seem like an odd offset, right? We have 900,000 developers, 130,000 published skills, but it's important to remember that of all of those developers, a lot of them are building skills for their companies, for their employers, or even for clients of theirs. But on top of that, lots of us as developers have built skills that are just for us, or just for our family, or just for private use. And those aren't considered published skills. So the 130,000 number is just the number of skills that are available to the public. But there have been many, many more built by our developers. This is another really important point I want to make. There are Alexa developers today making 7 figures annually, exclusively from the revenue from their Alexa skills. That's amazing. Millionaires, 7 figures. That is something that has me overly excited about the prospect and future of what's going on with Alexa development. Because if people can make real money, real big money, like 7 figures, $1 million incomes, there's an opportunity to build businesses. There's an opportunity to build entire companies based on this kind of technology. And where you may have started with something small or a small hobby or an idea, the more we grow, the more opportunities we have for monetization. The more opportunities you have to take these ideas that you were passionate about and turn them into really big businesses. Things that you could find being your full-time job. I'm excited about that. On top of that, developer revenue from in-skill purchasing has more than doubled year over year, 100% increase. If you think about that, people are starting to embrace the idea that 1, there's amazing content going on Alexa devices, but 2, they're willing to pay for the great experiences. That's amazing because it allows us to take our passion, our excitement, and combine that with providing amazing experiences and turn that into something that we can actually make some money from. All right, let's talk a little bit about smart home also. 140,000 smart home products can be controlled with Alexa. Now, this isn't how many products are in the world. There's 140,000 different SKUs, different products, light switches and garage door openers and all sorts of things. 140,000 different products are made today that can be controlled by Alexa. This is so exciting to me because it means that there are so many companies that have embraced the idea of voice-controlled technology in homes and in workplaces and in cars, and allowing voices to control these things makes everything easier, especially when your hands aren't free. Driving is a great example. But there are so many situations in which being able to just speak into the air and have something happen is so much faster than pulling a phone out or going over and flipping a light switch or whatever it might be. This is exciting. This is the future, and I'm really looking forward to it. All right, that was numbers. We've spent a little bit of time on our numbers. What I do want to talk about now, though, is new devices. There's been lots of new devices released this year, and I think that there are a few that you'll see I am the most excited about. But every one of them provides a new kind of experience for your customers. The first one is the Echo Show 10. If you haven't had an opportunity to see this device yet, it's a round base and has a screen that can rotate all the way around. This means that the screen with the camera can turn and point at the person that's talking to it. It can continue to follow and focus with you as you're cooking in the kitchen and you're moving from station to station. You can continue to see what's going on or have a video call so that you're always in frame. This is a really cool advancement, but on top of that, there's really cool developer things we can do with this. Imagine building a trivia game and someone gets the question wrong. You can shake the screen side to side a little bit to make it look like it's shaking its head, no, you got it wrong. Those kinds of things are really exciting to me because it provides an even more immersive experience than just voice alone or just screens. Now we have this kind of interactivity and motion that we have available to us. On top of that, we announced this fall the Echo Show 15. This is a bigger device, right? This is the biggest one we released so far. And you imagine it sits on a countertop or maybe hangs on a wall. And this becomes the home hub. Not only can you do all the things that you would normally do with Alexa, but we also introduced the idea of widgets. And these widgets, as you can see on the screen, allow you to track weather or a shopping list, or just put some Post-its on the screen to remember to do things as you head out of the house. The Echo Show 15, I think, is a really good introduction as to how a multi-user device can live in a home. Where if you think about our phones or tablets, those are all single-user devices for the most part. And so being able to have one device that can cater to an entire family, an entire household, that's a pretty awesome advancement, and I'm really excited to see where we head with this. But it wasn't just new devices. There were also small modifications made to small devices that were released. One example of that is the Echo Show 8. This is an 8-inch screen, and one of the big advancements that we made with this one is that we changed the camera. So I mentioned earlier with the Echo Show 10 that the screen can actually rotate and pivot to turn and point at the person that's speaking. Well, these devices don't move, but what they do have is now a new widescreen camera. And with this camera, it allows it to pan and zoom a little bit more, so you get that same kind of feeling when you're looking at the other person on a video call. This also means that you don't have to stay in frame as much because it has a much broader, wider view, and it can just focus on the part that you are in. And so it can still move and track you within that wider range. We've also done a bunch of other cool partnerships. We have the Echo Studio with Billie Eilish. The Echo Studio is a fantastic device, and I think partnering with her made a lot of sense because we have the opportunity to take a lot of the rich sounds that come out of music and really play them in the way they were meant to be heard on the Echo Studio. So you'll see partnerships like that. You'll also see really cool things like the Echo Dot for kids. These are small, fun Echo Dot devices. They do everything that an Echo Dot does, but they're made in fun shapes and colors to make them more enjoyable to put in a kid's room. One of the form factors that I was the most excited about, though, is the idea of the Echo Frames. Now, the Echo Frames actually came out a couple of years ago, and they're released as glasses. You take them to your optometrist, you can get prescription lenses in them, but it's a full functioning Alexa device on your head. It's also location aware, which means you can get walking directions and things like that while you're using it. Really powerful. And one of the best parts about Echo Frames for me is that you had the ability to hear the world around you while also being able to communicate with Alexa. If you think about devices that you have on your countertop, they work fantastically. You can hear the world around you, but they don't travel well, right? You can't carry that with you down the sidewalk terribly easily. And with the Echo Buds, the headphone version of these, which I'll talk about in a moment, you are sealing the world off for the most part. You're putting headphones in your ears, and you're blocking out the outside world. Now, there is an ambient setting that allows you to hear what's going on around you, but being able to talk to Alexa without having anything in your ears, like the Echo Frames, is absolutely fantastic. So there's a couple of small announcements to make about this. The first is, I'm not a glasses wearer, so it was hard for me to justify putting a pair of these in my life because I don't wear glasses and it seemed hard to do. And as you can see in this photo, we've released versions now that are just sunglasses. So you can wear them anytime that you would normally wear sunglasses, whether you're outside or in the car. It's really, really convenient. And you don't have to worry about the prescription lenses that I don't need. But on top of that, we also released a bunch of other colors. They only came in black initially, and it was nice to be able to offer a couple of different versions to give you a choice to match your style. But I also want to make sure to spend time focusing on the Echo Buds. The Echo Buds are the headphones that fit inside your ears and give you the access to Alexa, but they're fantastic headphones. These are ones that I've been using for almost 2 years, and the V2 version of these came out just recently. Now, what's nice about this is there's a couple of new features that come with our version 2. The first one is it comes in this cool glacier white color, so it's not every device that I own is black, but now we have white earbuds sticking out of our ears. But on top of that, it comes with longer battery life. It can be charged with a USB-C cable, and on top of that, they can be charged wirelessly. So if you have any Qi wireless charger available to you, you can just set them on there, and it'll charge not only the headphones, but also the case that they're inside. Very, very handy, and one of my favorite devices to use when I'm out and about. The last device that I want to share is Astro. If you hadn't seen the announcement about Astro, I am incredibly excited about not only what Astro offers, but also where this leads in the future. This is an autonomous robot that rolls around your house, has a screen, can communicate with you, is a full Alexa device. So you can talk with it, you can do all of the things that you would expect to do with Alexa. But on top of that, you can ask it to patrol your home. It has a extending rod that comes out of its back that's 4 feet tall with a camera. So if you need to patrol your house when you're not home, you can see what's going on. It has a storage container in the back so you can deliver things to family members across the house. And it just does a lot of fun interactive things. And it does it in a way that's not obtrusive, right? It's around when you need it to be. You can have it follow you. You can play games. There's all sorts of things you can do with this device. But I think this is the first foray into a really useful home robot, which is something that I'm incredibly excited about. All right, so we've talked about devices, we've talked about glasses and earbuds and all sorts of new countertop devices. But now what I want to talk about is new capabilities, because I think every time that I give this kind of presentation, where I get to share a lot of the new things that we've released, I find a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, I had no idea about that, or wow, that's so cool. And one of the first ones that I want to talk about as we talk about new capabilities is the idea of keyboard mode. This is something that I think kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, and it's not only one of the most exciting things for me because it gives me a bunch of other use cases for Alexa, but it's also got a really strong accessibility story. For those people that can't use their voice or have limited use of their voice, they now have the ability to interact with Alexa in the same way that all of us do, except that they can type to it instead. So whether it's on an Android or an iOS device, there is a keyboard icon in the at least in the United States, but I've seen it also in Great Britain and a few other places. It will continue to roll out broadly, but it's in the Alexa app. So in the Alexa app, if you open the app on the home screen and look at the top left corner, there is a keyboard icon there. And that keyboard will take you to messaging that looks like this. You are actually just texting back and forth with Alexa, and you can interact with any skill, you can kick off music, you can do all the things that you would expect to do with Alexa, but you do it typing. So this sounds good at first, especially for folks that don't have the ability to speak. But the big thing here for me is when I have that shopping list that we've been storing on our phones, and now I need to add something or remove something while I'm in the store. I don't want to be that person that's walking around yelling at my phone trying to get things to happen. I can stand in line and just mark things off or add things to the list as I'm there. This is amazing. This is where I think there's a lot of power, because there are so many times in our lives where society says it's not okay to talk out loud right now. Maybe you're in a library or waiting in line at the BMV. In all of those cases, you don't want to be yelling or talking to your device on your phone. It's easier to just type and make the action happen. So this is where keyboard mode, I think, becomes incredibly exciting. Another one on iOS is the idea of the Ask Alexa widget. One of the things that we've heard from customers is that they want an easier way to use Alexa on their phones. And so this makes a simple, easy way for them to pin Alexa directly to the home screen of their phone. And with one tap, it opens the app and takes them right to the place where they can start talking. This little widget is a simple addition. It's very, very easy to do. To add the widget, you can just go to your device's home screen, long press on an empty area until the apps kind of jiggle around, and then you tap the Add button and look for the Ask Alexa widget. Super easy, super convenient, and ends up looking like this on your phone. It makes life a lot easier for me to get into Alexa and talk to the things and do the things that I want to do without having to fumble around with my phone a whole bunch. One of the other new capabilities that I'm very excited about is our participation in the Voice Interoperability Initiative. The idea behind this is to make voice assistants interoperable on many different devices. Amazon will soon be releasing the Multi-Agent Experience Toolkit, which will provide middleware components for multi-agent integrations. What this really means is that multiple assistants will be able to be used on the same device. So instead of having an Alexa device and a different device for each assistant you may need, instead they're all combined and being able to communicate with all of them in different devices. So imagine being in your car and talking to your car and then talking to Alexa. All of that can happen on the same hardware in the same ecosystem without having to have multiple devices to handle each assistant. This is really exciting to me, and I think being a part of the Voice Interoperability Initiative is something that will pave the way for a lot of the things that make things better for our customers, right? Customers will have the freedom to choose their preferred service for any task, and at the end of the day, that's what's important. We aim to deliver this experience through multiple, simultaneously available voice services on the same device, each with its own wake word or invocation name, enabling customers to talk to the service of their choice in a secure manner by simply saying its name. Now, another one that you may not have seen, especially if you don't live in a larger city, is Alexa Transit. Alexa Transit's exciting for every time that I head into a larger city. I live in the Midwest. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and we don't have a lot of public transportation other than buses. I wish we had some kind of light rail system, but it just hasn't happened. But when I go to cities like Chicago and New York, I'm so excited to be able to take advantage of these services, especially at the low, low cost that they offer. So Alexa Transit is for those of you that live in those places and use public transit quite often. What it allows you to do is schedule exactly the trips you want to take, what your work commute looks like. If you have other places that you go on a regular basis, you can let it know that, hey, these are the things that I regularly do, and you can set these things up directly in the Alexa app. Now, what's cool about this is that it can start to recognize and pay attention to what your schedule looks like, and then provide you information like this based on the schedule you're going to take to get to the Empire State Building, it's going to take you 1 hour and 18 minutes. Now, I'm hoping with public transportation in New York City, that means you live far from the city, because I would hope just getting on the subway, even with a couple of hops, it shouldn't take you 1 hour and 18 minutes. But the idea here is that we can build out our own schedules, our own routes that we want to be able to take to get to the places we care about, and have Alexa recognize and notify us when we should leave or how much time it's going to take us to get there without having to put that into an app and figure that out every single time. One of the other awesome features that I've recently had an opportunity to take advantage of are sound detection routines. Now, there are lots of different things that go into this. Babies that are crying, dogs that are barking, maybe glass that is breaking, or for some of you, maybe it's just the sound of snoring keeping you awake. In all of those cases, what this sound detection stuff allows us to manage is that now we can kick off routines directly with sound. So if glass breaks, we could have a phone call, or we could have a notification come to our phone to let us know that, hey, we heard glass breaking in your home. And the reason I said I got to use this recently, I'll tell you a very quick story about this. My son loves mac and cheese, right? And he had a bowl of mac and cheese. It was a little ceramic bowl, nothing fancy or expensive, but just a little ceramic bowl. And it was sitting on our countertop. Well, as it turns out, our cat also loves mac and cheese. And so late at night, while we were getting ready for bed, our cat hopped up on the countertop and was licking the rest of the bowl that had the remaining mac and cheese in it. Well, it was some aggressive licking, and he took the bowl directly off of the countertop and down onto the floor where it shattered. Now, because that glass breaking sound happened in my house, I had a notification that came to my phone and said, hey, I heard glass breaking in your kitchen. I was blown away. Now, I had heard it, and I knew that it wasn't someone breaking into my home or anything like that, but it was amazing that it worked. It was something that, as we talk about trust in this industry and in this technology, it's one of those things that you're not going to go break a bunch of glass to test it and make sure it works, but you certainly want to make sure that it does work when it's supposed to. And I was blown away that it was able to recognize a bowl breaking in my kitchen, recognize it as breaking glass, and send me a message. But the same can be done for all of these sounds. A baby is crying, let's have a sound machine kick on, or wake me up so that I can go tend to its needs. Or the dog is barking. We have a silly one. My dog is named Mabel, and we have a silly one that when the device hears the dog barking, it says, Mabel, stop barking. And it's so funny to have Alexa jump in and tell her to stop barking. So there's lots and lots of different ways that you can use these things to meet your needs. There are even smart beds today, right, that will help you with your snoring. So if it hears snoring, hey, just angle my bed up a little bit so that I stop snoring and stop making my wife so angry. Lots and lots of great examples. But if you're not already playing with sound detection, I recommend it. It's a really, really cool feature. One of the other features that I'm super excited about is video sharing. You can now share videos with your Alexa contacts from both your Echo Show devices as well as your phone. You can just say, Alexa, record video, to start recording a video on your Echo Show devices. And once you're recorded, you can tell Alexa to share that video with any of your Alexa contacts. This is a really fun way to create fun content that you can share with your friends directly from your device. What's also fun about this is that once you've shared that video with your friends, they can send responses that are like or love or wow. Those kinds of interactions start a conversation, and connecting with people is the point of all of this, right? So being able to create videos and share them with your friends is just one other new way you're able to use your Alexa device. Another one my son is super excited about is Alexa for Xbox. If you haven't seen this already, think about on your Xbox, one of your friends that you may have that you play with online, and just ask your device if they're online. You can say something like, ask Xbox if Jeff Blankenberg is online. By doing that, you can know whether or not they're playing right now, what game they might be playing, but you can also use your Xbox as a smart home device. Think about all of the other devices that are out there that can stream video to your television, for example. The Xbox is a fantastic device for this. And so you can also ask it to do things like play Netflix or start Amazon Video or any of the other apps that are on your device. You can have them just fire right up just by talking to your Echo. Very, very cool. You can also get it to start downloading games. So if you're a Game Pass member and you want to be able to say, hey, download that new game that was released today on Game Pass, you can start that download directly with your voice without having to come home and get it all set up. That way it's ready for you when you get home. One more, I think I have two more features that I want to talk about, but one more is adaptive volume. This is something that I think a lot of people have really missed out on being able to play with, just because it hasn't made news headlines or anything, but it's a really useful feature in your house. Adaptive volume is a feature that allows Alexa to adjust speaking to a higher volume in response to their questions when Alexa detects that it's loud, and a softer volume when it detects that there's not a lot of noise going on. So this is something that you have to choose to turn on. Otherwise, you just use the standard volume settings that you see on your device. But you can say, Alexa, turn on adaptive volume, or visit the Alexa app and you can set the feature up there. What this allows you to do, though, is make sure that your device has the right volume at the right times. And there's so many times where you're like, oh my gosh, that's so loud, because we were playing music earlier and now it's still set at volume 8 or 9. But conversations usually happen at volume 4 or 5. So being able to set that dynamic volume so that when you talk to your device, it's at a volume that's comfortable for the ambient sound around you, it's an awesome feature. Anyway, check that one out. The last one that I want to talk about is Find My. Find My is a way for us to be able to find the things that we care about the most. With the launch of this feature, which I think is still only in private beta at this time, you can use the Find My APIs to find devices that you make. So if you imagine being able to find your phone or your keys, there are lots of devices out there to do that today and apps that support them. But now you can start to build those capabilities directly in to what's going on with your devices. So you can say things like, Alexa, find my, and whatever your device is, or Alexa, ring my to locate tracked items. We're opening this up later this year, and you'll see that a lot more capabilities will be available in 2022. But the idea that we can start to find and track a lot of our devices, whether that's our phone that we left sitting on a chair at an airport, or maybe dropped our keys on the beach, being able to find these things and locate them is a huge, huge lifesaver. If you've ever had to replace all the items in your wallet, you know what a headache that can be. So Find My is a very exciting new feature that I'm looking forward to. All right, we're down to our last segment. We're down to developer tools, and I want to make sure that we dig deep on this because there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. So developer tools, as I said, are all the things that we as developers can take advantage of when building for Alexa. The first thing that I'm the most excited about is Shopping Actions and Amazon Associates. These are ways to sell products directly from Amazon inside your skills. There's two sides to this, though. There's Shopping Actions and Amazon Associates. With Amazon Associates, what this allows you to do is use the same program that you've seen online at Amazon.com, where you can create a custom link and share that out to social media or on your website. And when people make a purchase using that link, you collect a commission. Well, the same works in Alexa. You can choose products that you have no affiliation with, no relationship with, but if you sell those products, you can gain a commission on that. I'll give you a quick example. I'm working on an Alexa skill that is a board game review skill where I spend some time playing and then reviewing board games. So I'm giving you a bunch of information about a bunch of very cool games. Well, if a game catches your eye, wouldn't it be great for me to be able to sell that game directly in the skill? Do you want to buy this today? Yes, I want to buy that game. That sounds amazing. Please buy it for me. And it uses all of their Amazon information to make that purchase for them, ships it directly to them, and they did it all just with their voice inside your skill. Now, I don't collect the whole amount of that, right? There's an entire system called Amazon Associates that handles all of that for me, but making a few dollars from my skill just for recommending products is a great way to go. But Shopping Actions also allows you to sell the products that you do make. So let's say, for example, that you are a yoga studio and you make your own custom yoga mats. Well, you build an Alexa skill that's an entire yoga class, right? A whole series of classes. And as people get started, you say, hey, by the way, if you don't have a yoga mat, we actually have a special for our Alexa users. If you'd like to buy our yoga mat, say yes, and we'll send you one immediately. This allows you to sell your own products. Now, this is still selling it through Amazon, but it allows you to sell your products and keep your revenue the way you would. This is a really exciting way to unlock a lot of the different sales mechanisms that we might want to use inside of our skills. So Amazon Associates is very, very cool. And Shopping Actions is the way to sell your own things. I'm really looking forward to see what you guys build with these because I think there's a lot of opportunity. Another one is multi-value slots. We're going to jump around here as we think about the different features. But multi-value slots solves a hard problem that a lot of us have faced when building Alexa skills. And that is the idea of ordering a pizza with multiple toppings. If you've ever tried to build an interaction model, to build a voice model that can handle this kind of scenario, you've probably found that you had to build one for 2 toppings, and one for 3 toppings, and one for 4 toppings, and hope for the best that you collect them all. Well, what multi-value slots allows us to do is handle that automatically without having to build a bunch of weird structures inside of our skill. So when someone says something like, I want to plan a trip to go hiking, camping, and fishing. Well, if you have the capabilities to handle those things, you don't need to worry about how many things or the order. All you have to worry about is collecting that information. And so inside your skill, inside that slot, that multi-value slot, you get information like this. And you can see that I have hiking and camping and fishing. This makes my life really easy because I only have to provide the one slot activity. And inside this slot, I have all of the values for all the kinds of activities that we have. But at the bottom, you can see that I've checked multi-value. This allows me to designate that this slot can take multiple values. And this applies to lots and lots of scenarios, right? The travel example, certainly for pizza, but there's so many different times where people will give you a list of things that they want, especially when it relates to shopping, where maybe you have a fruit stand, right? And you want to be able to sell apples, bananas, and pears. Okay, well, those are 3 separate items. I don't want to have to take each one of those individually. I want to be able to provide an order that easily handles their request the way they set it. So this is a really powerful tool, and it makes your life so easy, and it's just as simple as just flipping that switch and allowing users to give multiple choices. Now, I only recommend doing this when you expect multiple choices. If it's something that they couldn't do, then I wouldn't recommend providing multiple values, but it is incredibly useful when you need it. Related to that, we also have Alexa entities. This is something that gives us far more information about the things that our users have asked for. So in this example, let's say the user said, "Tell me more about Canada." Well, if I have a skill that can take this kind of request, I have to have a whole bunch of information about Canada, right? I have to have a database or some kind of repository of information that I can share about the information they might want about Canada. What Alexa Entities does is uses a lot of the knowledge graph that Amazon already has to be able to provide that information directly to you via an API so that you can look this stuff up without having to store it all yourself. So in the example of Tell Me More About Canada, you can see that I bring in a whole bunch of information by calling this API. When they say Canada, I get my slot values and I get this API value. But what this really gives me then is the ability to call out to that API and gather all sorts of information about Canada. When it was founded, who the president is, all sorts of other information about Canada. And hopefully these are the kinds of things that I might want to use. I would probably have planned ahead and know what kind of information I would expect from those API calls. But it's nice because you don't have to manage or update this stuff. And in situations where data changes, like a president, or if you're asking about a celebrity, who their spouse is, right? That could potentially change. And so if you want up-to-date information, you're either managing and updating all of that information yourself, or you can rely on this knowledge graph to have the most up-to-date information for you. This concept, Alexa Entities, applies to all of these different built-in slot types. So whether that's person or movie or city or author or director or musician, all of these things can be used in the same way, where you get that API call, you call out and get a bunch of additional information and can provide a whole bunch more context about what's going on with that specific entity. It's really, really cool technology, and it saves us as developers a ton of time that we would otherwise have to curate tons and tons of information. All right, another one that's very cool, Alexa for Apps shortcuts. I can't tell you how excited I am about this because this increases the discovery story by a lot. If we think about how things work today, a user has to find our skill and remember the name of our skill to be able to interact with it. But if I already have a website or an app or other things, these shortcuts go a long way. So the first thing we can do is by building mobile voice commands that deep link into our apps or websites in literal minutes. You provide a couple of URLs out to where your app lives, the custom URLs that would happen on your phone. And what's awesome about this is that then you can have it so that you can talk directly to your phone. You can make, one example is the TikTok app. I can talk to my Alexa device and tell the TikTok app to do something, right? The app that's on my phone. In the same way, I can have buttons inside my app that allow my specific voice experience to kick off on a user's device. These shortcuts allow us to go both ways, and those deep links make a huge impact on making this stuff happen. So you can apply for access to this to our Shortcuts No Code Builder. You can go to alexa.design/Alexa for apps, separated by dashes, to get set up with this. I am very, very excited about what this leads to. This works on both iOS and Android, and it's a really exciting new way to interact not only with our voice devices, but with our phones as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you build here. Another thing that we need to talk about is Alexa Conversations. If you haven't had a chance to talk about this, this isn't just you talking to a device. This is a specific set of technology that we've built that allows you to use machine learning to create your interaction model and the experience that you have for your users inside Alexa Skills. Instead of being able to define an interaction model and slots and all of the other stuff for a conversation you hope happens, instead, with machine learning, you can use Alexa Conversations to define a set of dialogues. And in those dialogues, Alexa actually manages how and where things will move. We can also jump out of the Alexa Conversations experience if we need to go back to standard interaction model experiences when we need them. But if we're building a new skill and we're thinking about the best ways to interact with our user, Alexa Conversations can solve a lot of the headaches that you have with thinking about where and when and how conversations are going to happen inside a skill. It's a really powerful tool, and if you haven't had a chance to play with it, I highly recommend it. One of the other cool innovations we have as developers is the new Motion API. We talked earlier about the Echo Show 10 and some of the new capabilities it has with the screen that can rotate around the device. And the Motion API gives us the ability to do that with our code. So in the same way that we can provide visuals on the screen and voice experiences through the speakers, we now have the ability to control how this thing moves. Now, we can't spin it around and make it do all sorts of crazy things, but what we can do is use something called choreography. These choreographies are pre-programmed sets of animations, if you will, that will move the screen up and down and left and right in certain ways. The example I used earlier was the idea of getting a trivia question wrong and having it shake its head side to side. What's cool about these choreographies is that it gives you, the developer, a way to interact with your user that's beyond voice, but not all the way into the screen. We can just have it shake its head a little bit, and it's a very natural, obvious way that, oh man, I must have gotten that one wrong. These Motion APIs are super, super cool, and I hope that we see more devices in the future, like the Echo Show 10, that give us the ability to take advantage of them. Going back to money, one of the other features that I'd really like to focus on is in-skill purchasing. Now, in-skill purchasing, or ISP, has been available in the United States and several other countries for a few years now. But two of the countries that have been asking for this the most are India and Canada. And so earlier this year, we announced that India and Canada are getting in-skill purchasing very, very soon. This is an exciting, exciting opportunity because we know we have tons and tons of developers in those places that really want opportunities to be able to make premium content experiences, to be able to give their customers the things they want, while also being able to make a business from a lot of the work that they're doing. So India and Canada, we're looking forward to seeing the new kinds of things that you can offer now with in-skill purchasing. On top of that, we've also released a new concept called paid skills. The idea behind a paid skill is much like a paid app on your phone. You have to pay for it before you can even use it. And there are lots and lots of places where we've had developers reach out to us and say, look, I understand that you want a freemium experience, but we can't this is a private thing, or we need people to be able to pay for this to be able to have access to the content. And so paid skills are now a new thing. So let me give you an example of what this looks like for someone encountering a paid skill. They say open quick trivia, and it says, oh, welcome. And we give them a welcome. And we say, do you want to learn more about this? Well, what learn more really means is, hey, you're going to have to pay for this before you actually get access to it, but I will tell you about what you're experiencing. So in this case, it says quick trivia is a challenging trivia game for all levels. It costs $1.99. Would you like to buy it? And if the user says yes, then it says, great, I emailed you the receipt. Let's go. And it takes you right into the experience the same way that you would when you open a skill normally. Now that only happens the first time. Every other time after that, when they open your skill, of course, they will jump right into the skill because they've already paid for it. And there are easy APIs to be able to check and see whether or not a user has paid for a skill. So very, very cool. And it's so exciting to see all the new little ways that we can take advantage of building skills in the way that makes the most sense for our businesses. I am so excited about where we're heading with the future of Alexa, with voice, and with ambient computing. All of these things were released in just the past year, and I can't wait to share with you what we're building in 2022. Thank you so much.